Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, you're well, guys. So today I'm going to answer the most asked question by apprentices or those who want to do apprenticeships. And that question is, will I be able to progress and get into senior leadership positions without having a degree? Now, I love and hate this question. Hate it because of the number of times I'm asked the question, hence why I'm doing a video on it today. But love it because it shows real motivation. People who are enthusiastic about their careers, they don't just want to stop at becoming a chartered accountant and inshallah are thinking about their future and want to progress into senior positions, which is great when I think about it in detail, because you guys know when I first started my apprenticeship, I wanted to be the youngest ever CFO, right? But I had no plan in place. I had a goal, but I didn't know how I was going to achieve that goal. So it's great to see you guys have already thought about your plans and how you can get into those senior leadership positions. So there's two main considerations here, and I want to start off by talking about my own experiences first. So once I became a chartered accountant, I moved over to Ferguson PLC, where I spent 18 months as an internal auditor. And then more recently, I moved over to TJX Europe about 3 years ago, where I joined as a senior auditor before I was promoted to internal audit manager at the beginning of 2021. Now, I've been qualified for over 5 years now, and I can tell you now that not once has my degree or lack of degree ever come up in a conversation about my career. And I can also tell you that it wouldn't have come up in the conversations the business was having when they decided to promote me to manager. Now, on reflection, I think I could have been promoted quicker. It took me 3 years to get promoted from senior auditor to manager. I think I could have done it in 2 years, but the situation wasn't helped by COVID and the fact that I had to address some development points. And that's what I want you to focus on. Development points, because when you want to progress, you're always going to have areas which you need to improve on or development points which need to be addressed, and that can range from technical skills to soft skills, such as maybe focusing on your communication, such as your presentation skills, or delivering through others. So when you're being considered for promotion, the biggest area of focus will be your development points. Your past qualifications shouldn't come into it, and even if they do, a chartered accounting qualification is the equivalent to a master's. So the fact that you don't have a degree doesn't even matter. So to summarize that point, guys, when I got promoted from senior auditor to manager, it was because I focused on addressing my development points. The fact that I didn't have a degree had absolutely nothing to do with it. And I'd say over my career, so that's over 10 years, there's only been one situation where me not having a degree actually mattered. And that was when I was leaving Ferguson PLC. So I'd spent 18 months at the company. And when I was looking to leave, I was applying for lots of different jobs. And one of the jobs was with another company in their internal audit department. So I put my CV in via a recruiter. And a few days later, he actually rang back and he said, Fez, I'm sorry, but the head of audit has decided not to progress your application to an interview because you don't have a degree. And I was obviously a little bit disappointed at this stage, because up until then, the fact that I didn't have a degree had never mattered. But me and the recruiter had a bit of a discussion about it, and we agreed that actually the head of audit was being a bit old-fashioned, and the fact that they were European didn't help. Not because they were being biased against me, but because in a lot of European countries, you actually need to have a degree, in some instances even a master's, to get into certain roles. So although we didn't agree with the head of audit's decision, it didn't actually impact my career one bit, and there was some justification because culturally, where they came from, it was more appropriate for candidates to have a degree. But before you guys start viewing this as a negative, put things into context. This was one bad experience in a career of over 10 years. And in that time, I've applied to dozens of different jobs. So actually, if you look at it as a percentage compared to my total number of job applications, you're probably looking at 1 to 2%. Secondly, in those dozens of job applications where I've progressed to interview stage, I've actually had good conversations with heads of audits who were school leavers, don't have a degree, and work their way up. Now, this brings me on to my second point, which is a lot of people may feel nervous because they don't see senior leaders who were former apprentices. As an example, I'm not really aware of many, if any, partners at the Big Four who were former apprentices on the school leaver program and have since then gone on to become partner of a particular service line. And I wouldn't expect there to be many either, because if you think about it, structured school leaver programs, so the 5-year schemes where you go on and become a chartered accountant, have only been around for a maximum of 15 years. And remember, guys, what I always say, it can take 15 to 20 years to get to those senior leadership positions. Remember the video I did a few weeks ago, guys, where I was talking about some of the highest paid CFOs in the country? Well, it took them about 30 years to get to that position. So not now, but once school leaver programs have been established for a longer period of time, say in 10 years, I'd expect to see a lot more partners and senior leaders without a degree. Now, the only concern I do agree with a little is that senior leaders appear a bit prestige. They have a degree, they come from a particular background. Investors will have more confidence in people who have a degree, a lot of education. So actually, if you have two candidates going for a CFO position, one with a degree and one without, you're likely to pick the candidate who has a degree. But again, there's always a workaround. If you're rising through the ranks, you're doing really well at a firm or a company, and you notice actually compared to my peers, I don't have a degree, you can always go and get an MBA. Chances are, if you're doing really well, your company or firm will sponsor you to get that MBA, and you can do that after you've become a chartered accountant. You don't need to have a degree to go and do an MBA. A few videos ago, I was speaking about Jessica L. Look her up. She's the CFO of Shell, and her highest level of qualification is an MBA. Last point I want to focus on, guys, is that I believe the overall situation will only get better because of the focus on inclusion and diversity. Companies no longer want all white males who have been educated from Harvard or Oxbridge or who come from a particular background on their boards. They know, and the results are clear, that having diverse leadership results in strong financial benefits as well. So opportunities will only improve. And guys, always remember that when I started my apprenticeship 10 years ago, people thought I was mad for not going to uni. But now I speak to more and more people, including those who have a degree, who would now say that you're mad for going to university. In summary, guys, the fact that you don't have a degree will not hold you back in getting those senior leadership positions. Inshallah, I'll leave it there. And as always, if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.